The global fruit juice industry is worth well over $150 billion, yet some of the bottles sitting in American refrigerators right now contain a story most consumers never hear. Independent testing has uncovered concerns involving lead, inorganic arsenic, and other contaminants in several popular juice brands. We investigated 7 juices that raised questions and found 3 brands that came closest to what consumers expect. Number 7, Great Value Apple Juice. Most people buy Great Value apple juice for a simple reason. It's cheap. When you're standing in a Walmart aisle looking at 2 bottles that seem almost identical, saving a few dollars feels like the obvious choice. And to be fair, the label appears reassuring. It says 100% apple juice. No bright warning labels, no obvious red flags. But this is where the story becomes more complicated. Consumer Reports testing found that Great Value apple juice was among the products that raised concerns for heavy metal exposure, particularly lead and inorganic arsenic. Their later investigation again listed the product among juices that could pose concerns for children at regular consumption levels. Importantly, the product remained legal for sale, but the findings highlighted how 100% juice does not automatically mean contaminant-free. Then came an even bigger headline. In 2024, Walmart recalled thousands of cases of Great Value apple juice after testing found inorganic arsenic levels above the FDA action level of 10 parts per billion. The recalled product reportedly measured 13.2 parts per billion. The recall was classified as Class 2, meaning serious health consequences were considered unlikely but possible. Now, this doesn't mean every bottle on every shelf is unsafe. That distinction matters. The real issue is that consumers often assume apple juice is one of the simplest foods they can buy. Apples. Pressed, bottled, done. The reality is far more industrial. Large-scale juice production relies on fruit sourced from multiple growing regions, concentrated ingredients, extensive storage, and complex supply chains. Every additional step creates another opportunity for contaminants already present in soil and water to enter the final product. You are not buying this because you're careless. You're buying it because it feels like the safe, obvious choice. And that gap between expectation and reality is exactly why Great Value starts this countdown. Number 6, Welch's 100% Concord grape juice. This is where the countdown starts getting uncomfortable. Because Welch's isn't some obscure store brand hiding on the bottom shelf. It's one of the most trusted juice brands in America. For generations, parents have poured Welch's into lunchboxes, breakfast tables, and family gatherings without a second thought. The company has built its reputation around vineyards, grapes, and the image of wholesome American farming. And that's exactly why its appearance on this list surprises so many people. Consumer Reports found that Welch's 100% Concord grape juice was among the products with some of the highest heavy metal concerns in its testing program. According to the report, the product fell into the category where even relatively small daily servings could raise concerns for both children and adults. Importantly, the juice remained fully legal to sell, and the findings should not be interpreted as proof that every bottle contains the same levels. But the results were significant enough to place the product among the most concerning juices tested. The question is, why grape juice keeps showing up in these investigations? The answer begins long before the juice reaches the bottle. Grapes are exceptionally good at absorbing minerals and compounds from the soil in which they grow. Unfortunately, that doesn't just include nutrients. Trace amounts of contaminants that exist naturally or historically in agricultural land can also find their way into the fruit itself. Consumer Reports noted that grape juices, as a category, showed higher average heavy metal levels than apple juices during testing. That pattern appeared across multiple brands, not just Welch's. And that's what makes this story different from a simple brand problem. You bought Welch's because it felt like the premium choice, the trusted choice, the family choice. But sometimes the biggest risk isn't the product everyone suspects. It's the product nobody ever questions. Number 5, Trader Joe's fresh pressed apple juice. This is where the countdown shifts from budget brands to something much more surprising, because Trader Joe's isn't supposed to be here. People shop at Trader Joe's specifically to avoid the problems they associate with mass market food. The stores feel different. The packaging feels cleaner, The products often look less industrial than what you find at a typical supermarket. That image matters. Consumers are willing to pay more because the brand has built a reputation around the idea that it carefully curates what reaches its shelves, which is why the results were so unexpected. In Consumer Reports testing, Trader Joe's fresh pressed apple juice was one of the products that raised the highest level of concern. The organization reported that the juice posed a potential risk at just a half cup serving per day and noted that the product exceeded the FDA's proposed limit for inorganic arsenic. Importantly, the product remained legal for sale, and the findings represented a snapshot of tested samples rather than every bottle ever produced. Think about what makes that result so surprising. Nothing about the bottle suggests risk. The label doesn't look artificial. The marketing doesn't rely on cartoon mascots or bright neon colors. Instead, it leans heavily on simplicity. Fresh pressed, natural, minimal. But contaminants don't care about branding. Heavy metals don't disappear because a label looks cleaner or because a retailer has cultivated a healthier reputation. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in the entire juice industry. Many shoppers assume that premium packaging equals premium purity. In reality, contamination issues often begin far upstream in orchards, soil conditions, irrigation water, and sourcing decisions made years before the juice reaches a shelf. And that's what makes Trader Joe's fresh pressed apple juice such an important entry on this list. You didn't buy it because it was cheap, you bought it because it felt like the upgrade. Sometimes that's exactly where the biggest disappointment is waiting. Number 4, Trader Joe's organic apple grape juice. By the time most people reach for a juice blend, they think they're making a smarter choice. After all, if apple juice has one nutritional profile and grape juice has another, combining them sounds like the best of both worlds. More variety, more fruit, more value. That is exactly the logic many shoppers follow when they pick up Trader Joe's organic apple grape juice. The word organic reinforces that feeling. It creates an impression of extra oversight, cleaner farming practices, and a product that sits a step above conventional juice. But this is where one of the biggest misconceptions in the grocery store begins. Consumer Reports found that Trader Joe's organic apple grape juice was among the juice products that raised concerns for heavy metal exposure. According to the testing, the product fell into the category that could pose concerns for children consuming relatively modest serving sizes. Importantly, the findings represented tested samples rather than every bottle sold, and the juice remained fully legal under existing regulations. The bigger lesson isn't about Trader Joe's alone, it's about the organic equals contaminant-free assumption. Many consumers believe organic certification automatically means a product has been tested for heavy metals. In reality, organic certification focuses primarily on farming practices and prohibited agricultural chemicals. It does not guarantee the final product contains lower levels of naturally occurring contaminants such as lead or arsenic. Consumer Reports specifically noted that organic juices did not consistently test lower in heavy metals than conventional products. That's a difficult reality to accept because organic products often cost significantly more. You pay extra expecting a cleaner product. You trust the label because it feels like evidence. Yet contaminants don't read labels. They originate in soil, water, and growing conditions long before a certification logo is printed on a bottle. And that's why this juice lands higher on the countdown, not because it broke the rules, but because it challenges one of the strongest beliefs modern shoppers have, that a premium organic label automatically means a purer product. Sometimes the difference between expectation and reality is far larger than most people realize. Number 3, Juicy Juice White Grape Juice. This is where the countdown starts feeling personal because Juicy Juice has spent positioning itself as a children's brand. The packaging is friendly, the name sounds wholesome, the marketing has always centered around the idea that parents are giving their kids something simple and fruit-based rather than a heavily processed soft drink. To be fair, the label does say 100% juice, but the story becomes more complicated when independent testing enters the picture. Consumer Reports found that Juicy Juice 100% white grape juice was among the products that raised concerns for both adults and children based on the levels of heavy metals detected in tested samples. Their analysis placed it in a category where regular consumption could contribute meaningfully to overall exposure. The product remained fully legal to sell, and the results represented tested samples rather than every bottle on store shelves. What makes this finding especially important is the audience. Children. A 6-foot-tall adult and a 40-pound child do not process exposure the same way. Small bodies receive a much larger dose relative to body weight from the exact same serving size. That's one reason regulators and public health researchers pay particularly close attention to contaminants in products commonly consumed by kids. The irony is difficult to ignore. Many parents buy grape juice because it feels like the healthier alternative to soda. They are trying to make a better choice. They are responding exactly as the packaging intends. Yet Consumer Reports found that grape juices and juice blends generally showed higher average heavy metal levels than apple juices during testing. In other words, some of the products consumers perceive as the healthier upgrade may carry concerns that shoppers never see discussed on the front label. And that's what makes Juicy Juice white grape juice land in the top 3. Not because it violated the law, not because it was uniquely bad, but because it sits at one of the highest trust moments in the grocery store. A parent choosing something they genuinely believe is good for their child. Number 2, 365 everyday value organic Concord grape juice. This is where the investigation takes a turn that many health-conscious shoppers never see coming. Because 365 everyday value isn't marketed as a bargain product. It's the house brand of Whole Foods. The entire image is built around cleaner ingredients, organic sourcing, and a customer base willing to spend extra for products they believe are a step above conventional grocery store offerings. That reputation carries weight. When shoppers place a bottle of organic grape juice into their cart at Whole Foods, they aren't just buying juice. They're buying trust. They're buying the belief that somebody has already done the screening for them. But independent testing told a more complicated story. Consumer Reports found that 365 everyday value organic Concord grape juice ranked among the products with the highest heavy metal concerns in its testing program. According to the findings, the juice fell into the category that could pose concerns for children consuming as little as half a cup per day and for adults at larger serving sizes. The product remained legal for sale, and the results reflected tested samples rather than every bottle produced. What's particularly striking is that this wasn't some brightly colored juice drink loaded with added sweeteners. This was organic Concord grape juice, one of the products consumers would most likely point to as a healthier option. Yet Consumer Reports also found that organic juices did not consistently contain lower heavy metal levels than conventional juices. In other words, paying more and choosing organic did not automatically translate into lower contamination concerns. That finding challenges a powerful assumption in modern grocery shopping. Many people treat organic certification as a shortcut, a signal that the product has already passed every test that matters. But organic certification primarily addresses farming methods and prohibited inputs. It is not a guarantee that the finished bottle has lower levels of lead or inorganic arsenic. And that's why this brand lands at number 2. Not because it broke the rules, not because it hid what it was, but because the gap between the image on the shelf and the laboratory findings was one of the largest in the entire investigation. The healthier choice isn't always the cleaner choice, and that distinction matters far more than most shoppers realize. Nash number 1. R.W. Knudsen Organic Just Concord Grape Juice. This is the one that surprises almost everyone. Not because it's a bargain brand, not because it's marketed to children, and not because it's trying to compete with soda. Quite the opposite. R.W. Knudsen is exactly the kind of brand health-conscious shoppers seek out when they are trying to avoid the industrial food system. The bottle looks premium, the branding feels natural. The ingredient list is refreshingly simple. In fact, the product contains just organic Concord grape juice. No added sugars, no artificial colors, no preservatives, no ingredient list packed with chemicals you can't pronounce. On paper, this should have been one of the safest products in the entire investigation, but the laboratory findings told a different story. Consumer Reports placed RW Knudsen Organic Just Concord grape juice among the products that raised concerns for both adults and children. According to the organization's testing, consuming as little as 4 ounces per day could reach its level of concern for heavy metal exposure. The juice remained fully legal to sell, and the results represented tested samples rather than every bottle on store shelves. And that's what makes this number one. Not the highest sugar content. Not artificial ingredients. Not deceptive marketing. The betrayal. Because this product exposes the single biggest misunderstanding in the entire juice aisle. Many consumers believe that if a label is organic, contains one ingredient, and comes from a respected premium brand, the purity question has already been solved. But heavy metals don't work that way. Lead and inorganic arsenic aren't necessarily added during manufacturing. They often originate in the environment itself. Historic pesticide use, contaminated soil, irrigation water, and agricultural conditions can all contribute to the levels eventually found in fruit products. Consumer Reports noted that grape juices consistently showed some of the highest average heavy metal levels across the entire category. That's the uncomfortable lesson. The cleanest looking bottle can still produce concerning test results. The shortest ingredient list can still leave unanswered questions. And the most expensive choice isn't automatically the purest one. You didn't buy this because you were fooled by flashy marketing. You bought it because you did exactly what nutrition experts often tell consumers to do. You chose organic, you chose a minimal ingredient list, you chose a premium product. Yet, independent testing still raised concerns, and that is why RW Knudsen Organic Just Concord grape juice takes the number one spot on this countdown. Because if even the product that appears close to real juice can produce results like these, then the problem is far bigger than any single brand. The problem is that most shoppers have no idea what questions they should be asking in the first place. Pure Juice brand number 3, Lakewood Organic Pure Juice. After looking at some of the most concerning products on store shelves, one pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The biggest problem in the juice industry is not always what gets added. Sometimes it's what gets hidden. Hidden concentrates, hidden flavor packs, hidden processing steps, hidden sourcing decisions that consumers never get to see. And that's where Lakewood takes a noticeably different approach. The first thing you notice is the bottle. Glass, not plastic. That might sound insignificant, but it sends a message. The company is positioning the product as juice rather than a shelf-stable beverage engineered for maximum convenience. Then you flip the bottle around. What you find is often remarkably simple. Many Lakewood products contain only the fruit or vegetable juice itself, sometimes with a small amount of organic lemon juice, no added sugar, no added water, no artificial flavors, no preservatives. But the ingredient list is only part of the story. One of the more interesting aspects of the company is its public discussion of heavy metal monitoring. Lakewood states that it conducts regular testing for contaminants such as arsenic and lead through accredited laboratories and says its products meet established U.S. safety limits. Now, no bottled juice is perfect. Heavy metals occur naturally in soil, water, and the environment. No company can completely eliminate that reality. What matters is whether a company acknowledges the issue and actively monitors for it. That's why Lakewood earns the number 3 spot. Not because it's the cheapest option, not because it's the most heavily marketed, but because it focuses on something the rest of the industry often avoids, showing consumers what real juice looks like when fewer shortcuts are involved. Pure Juice brand number 2, Martinelli's Gold Medal Apple juice. By this point in the investigation, you may have noticed something strange. Many of the brands on the avoid list looked healthy. Many were organic. Some had remarkably short ingredient lists. So what separates a better juice from a disappointing one? The answer isn't perfection. It's transparency. And that brings us to Martinelli's. For more than 150 years, Martinelli's has built its reputation around a very simple idea: apples. The company states that its apple juice is made from 100% U.S.-grown fresh apples rather than imported concentrate, and its ingredient list is remarkably short. In many products, it's simply apple juice and vitamin C. That's important because concentrate-based juices often go through additional processing steps. Martinelli's focuses heavily on fresh pressed apple juice, which is one reason the brand has developed such a loyal following. Now, to be fair, Martinelli's is not immune to quality issues. In 2024, the company voluntarily recalled a specific lot of gold medal apple juice after testing found inorganic arsenic slightly above the FDA action level. The affected lot was removed from sale and no illnesses were reported. Ironically, that recall actually highlights something positive. Testing worked. The issue was identified, disclosed, and addressed. No juice company can completely eliminate environmental contaminants because apples grow in the real world, not a laboratory. What matters is whether problems are detected and acted upon when they occur. That is why Martinelli's earns the number 2 spot. Not because it's perfect, but because it still reflects what juice is supposed to be. Fresh apples, minimal processing, and an ingredient list that looks like something you could have recognized a century ago. Pure Juice brand number 1, Treetop 100% apple juice. After investigating some of the most concerning juices on store shelves, one conclusion becomes impossible to ignore. The juice industry sells stories about orchards, stories about family farms, stories about wholesome fruit squeezed straight into a bottle. Sometimes those stories are true, sometimes they're mostly marketing. And that's why the number 1 spot goes to a brand that focuses on something refreshingly simple: the juice itself. Treetop has a history that traces back to a cooperative of fruit growers in the Pacific Northwest. Unlike many beverage companies that primarily function as marketing organizations, the brand's identity remains closely connected to apple growers and fruit production. More importantly, many of its flagship apple juice products keep the formula straightforward: 100% apple juice, no added sugar, no artificial sweeteners, no colorful claims about miracle health benefits. Just juice. That may sound ordinary, but after looking through countless ingredient panels across the grocery store, simplicity starts to feel surprisingly rare. This is also where consumers often rediscover what real juice is supposed to taste like. Real apple juice isn't designed to imitate candy. It isn't engineered to deliver the most intense sweetness possible. It should taste like apples, a little sweet, a little tart, a reflection of the fruit itself. That's a subtle but important difference. The companies that produce the best juice are often the ones trying the least to transform it into something else. Now, no bottled juice deserves a free pass. Juice still contains naturally occurring sugars, and moderation still matters. Environmental contaminants remain an industry-wide challenge that affects agriculture as a whole. But compared with brands that rely heavily on marketing language, health halos, or premium imagery, Treetop earns this position because it stays focused on the fundamentals. Real fruit, simple ingredients, a product that looks remarkably close to what consumers believe they're buying when they pick up a bottle labeled 100% juice. And after everything we've uncovered in this investigation, that is exactly the standard every other juice brand should be measured against.